Millions of people running out of cash, people storming ATMs, people storming banks. These are the news we've been listening to at least for the last 2 weeks about Nigeria. Those events taking place in a context marked by uncertainties call for queries about the economic situation of Nigeria. While this country, ranked among the first economies on the continent, is making a historical choice, the one of its new president. Investing in Africa, the case of Nigeria, is the theme of the legal cafe that we offer you today. In order to discuss about the economic attractiveness of Nigeria, we decided to rely on the insights of Nana Adu Ampofo and John Kofi Annan. If you don't mind, we are going to start our meeting for today. Um, Once again, first of all, thanks for getting available for this legal cafe based on the theme Invest in Africa, the case of Nigeria. So once again, welcome. It's really a pleasure for us to discuss with you guys on this theme today. If you don't mind, let's start with our meeting of today with the first query. Can you introduce yourself to our audience? I mean, who is Nana Adu Ampofo and who is John Kofi Annan?
Right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. That's almost a philosophical question you've begun us with. Who is Nana Ampofo? So I'll take it at a surface level. Say that, as you said, I'm co-founder and joint managing partner of Songhai Advisory, which is a firm dedicated to supporting business and investment decision making in our region, such that those activities can be transformative and sustainable. So, in terms of Nigeria, we've been working on Nigeria since we started the company in 2010 now, be it political risk analyses, market sizing, and other species of market intelligence, reputational risk assessment, integrity due diligence, all of those types of
sorry, Nana.
Yes,
please. Sorry for interrupting you, but there is someone. There are noises coming from somewhere. I don't know the place. I don't know if it's
okay. I'm on my own here, so unless it's my laptop.
Okay.
Is it okay?
I think it's okay now because we need to be sure that the sound is really good so that as we are recording the meeting, in order to share it with the other guys after.
Okay. Yes, I was saying thank you for the question and for inviting us here. As you mentioned, I am co-founder and joint managing partner of Songhai Advisory, and it's been our job to provide various species of local knowledge and advice to clients who are investing and making business decisions in the region. So this could be from political risk analysis to market assessment, market sizing, reputational due diligence. These are the sorts of inputs that we have to help our clients make their decisions. And we've been working in Nigeria since we founded the company in 2010. It accounts for a significant proportion of client interest, not just in oil and gas and the extractives, but in other, be it agri, fintech, banking, so on and so forth. It's as we well know, it's the largest market in the region. And I should say briefly, so our offices are in Accra in London. We have our lead Nigeria consultant in Lagos. I've been working on Nigeria since 2005. I'm of Ghanaian origin. So I worked at the last in the UN system in 2005 or so, when Nigeria was conducting a pretty broad-based reform at the time. So that, I think that's probably enough to say just for now.
Okay, thank you, Nana. Then what about you, John?
Oh, okay. I'm John Kofi Annan. I've lived in Nigeria for the past 11 years. I went into Nigeria as a technocrat working in a university in Enugu. So after about 7 years with the university in Enugu, I have to start up my company. That was 4 years ago.
Yes.
I have to start up my company. First, I went into edutech, and I was also doing a little bit of real estate marketing until I founded another company, which is basically that is Finance Gold 2 years ago into real estate, micro savings.
Okay.
And then we are looking forward to moving into fintech and other agro businesses. So Nigeria is actually a home for me. To the extent that I seem to know Nigeria more than I know Ghana now, and
Okay.
it's so when people ask me why Nigeria, I tell them Nigeria is the big brother of Ghana, and Nigeria is a fertile ground for investment. The only thing that I could say is that when the leadership in politics gets it right, Nigeria would take the center stage in representing Africa on the global stage. So that is one thing about Nigeria. Nigeria has every resources. Nigeria has all the potential, the human capital. They have everything. Could you believe I've traveled to over 25 states in Nigeria, and I could tell you that Nigeria has not even harnessed 3% of what they have as arable lands. And then, though real estate, they've gone up, but then we have not started real estate in Nigeria, because all I see is just estate development. But then when we come to commercial real estate, where we can have like 70 floors of a skyscraper sitting in many places, like what you can compare with China, Vietnam, and all that. Something Singapore and all that. Something needs to be done in Nigeria. So Nigeria is still a place of potential development.
Okay.
You know, when we say underdeveloped country or developing country, what it means is that there's still an avenue for growth. So that is it.
Well, thank you for all these answers, and let's go ahead with this meeting. With the second concern, Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa and one of the lowest life expectancies on the planet. What do you think about this statement made by Financial Times in his special report on investing in Nigeria?
I'd have to say so. I mean, I think my colleague John Kofi Annan really got it right in that, in terms of talking about the scale of the Nigerian opportunity. So a phrase like that, it's not inaccurate. I mean, but God is in the detail. So you could miss a lot by focusing on the poverty levels in the country. You could, and at the same time, by focusing just on the scale of the economy, talking about it being the largest economy in the region, one could miss some of the challenges of operating in the environment. So I think, as a summary statement, it's not a lie. But if you were relying on that in order to assess, in order to sort of have an impression about investment in Nigeria and the opportunities, you would be significantly misled. That's how I would probably begin my response. But yes, it's a fact that Nigeria is the largest. It's not one of it's the largest market in the region, not just in terms of demography, but in terms of the size of the economy. Even with all the challenges in the most prominent sectors of the economy, the struggles maintaining oil production at historic levels, all the issues that John Kofi Annan pointed to in terms of the limited amount of real estate development, or the limited amount of agricultural development. Despite all of that, this is still the largest economy in the region by far, and or significantly so, I should say. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would say there. And in terms of poverty levels, Nigeria has got its 36 states, and if you were to take that statement and think that you understood Lagos and Kano and Enugu and such just by that phrase, you would be misled again. It's got 36 states, and the economic conditions in them vary pretty significantly.
Okay. Thank you, Nana. Then, John.
Okay. When we talk about global indexes on poverty, when we talk about what they use to measure poverty and order, I don't think Africa is poor.
Okay.
I don't think Africa is poor, and I don't think Nigeria is poor. Now, let me ask a question. Before you buy a house in Nigeria, or before you build a house in Nigeria, do the banks give you loan to build a house?
No, they do not. We have some of the lowest domestic credit ratings in the region.
In the region. Okay. When you want to buy a phone, do you use a credit card?
Again, lowest domestic credit.
When you want to buy a phone, do you pay on credit?
No. Do you pay?
No.
No, you do not. Yeah.
You pay with cash.
Yeah, it's a cash-based economy.
It's a cash-based economy. So nothing is given to you on credit. So when we say poverty, it is the ability not to be able to, is the ability not to afford a thing. But in the case of Nigeria, in the case of Africa, you have to make the money to be able to afford it. You don't rely on a credit system to afford things. So when they measure indices of poverty, you cannot measure it based on, because you cannot have indices from every village in the country. Moreover, the population of Nigeria is not known. The per capita of Nigeria, they might pick it up and peg it anywhere. But at the end of the day, when you go to the grassroots, right, and you call some poor people poor, at the end of the day, many Nigerians also don't save their monies in bank accounts. So what you call poverty is not really poverty, just that the right numbers are not there to give you the best of the indices you need. Okay. So you might call it poverty because of ratio or because of statistical assumptions. But in reality, when you go on the ground and you interact with people, you see that people are able to buy one or two things. Now, you see, some of the problems of Africa is, and which Nigeria is not exempted, is self-inflicted. It's self-inflicted. How do I say self-inflicted? You see, we buy things, we don't value what we have. We don't value what we have. We will prefer to buy things made by someone and then think of it in the dimension that what we have is not best, or what we produce is not best. But if these things are being produced by us and we consume it, you will not find what is called the poverty ratio but then one thing that I've always said to anyone who is an investor is that, you see, anywhere you see there's a problem and you invest money, you rape money. You can take note of that. Anywhere there's a problem and you invest money in solving that problem, you rape money from there. There's high return when you are solving problems than putting money where there's no problems. For instance, there's a housing deficit in Nigeria. There's a housing deficit in Ghana. If you are putting money in real estate, affordable housing, you're going to make money from there. Right? right? In agriculture, there, a lot of produce in Nigeria gets rotten. That's after harvest crisis or storage issues, makes a lot of food gets rotten and cannot be processed. If you are an investor and you are connecting with farmers or outgrowers and you are processing this, you're going to make a lot of money. So what I want everyone to understand is that we don't want to hear the word poverty. We are not poor.
I think those are really good points about how useful is that language at all to talk about poverty or not. So that's sort of why I'm saying that, if you're looking about, if you're talking about access, if you're talking about disposable income, talking about access to cash, our people, including in Nigeria, are price sensitive for some of the reasons that you described. I mean, not just in terms of, let's say, jobs and income and income coming thereof, but in addition, as you say, how is the banking system functioning? All of that means that our people are quite often. Not that this is all of the experience, but often squeezed in terms of access to disposable income. That's why, for me, I feel as if wouldn't spend time challenging that figure. It's not the point. I would like that. If you were talking about starting and growing the business in our region, that statement is not useful to the discussion often enough. You need to do more diligence than that. You need to come and look at what the actual opportunity is. What are people's buying behaviors? What are their constraints? What's the competition like? What's happened when others have tried it? Those sorts of questions.
That is it.
Okay. So once again, thanks to you guys for the enlightenments provided by you concerning this second concern. And let's go ahead for this meeting. Next question. Nigeria's national policy on foreign investment permits foreign investment in all sectors of the economy except specified industries or companies designated as being on the negative list in the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC Act, in which both local and foreign investment are prohibited. How can you explain this statement in the NICP Act?
My understanding of this is that this is effectively they're referring to prescribed. So foreigners can invest in Nigeria apart from in prescribed or sensitive activities. So that negative list captures those prescribed or sensitive activities like security or military equipment or drugs, things like that. Outlawed substances. So I think that's what that refers to, and so I don't think the NIPC Act is where the impediments to investment in Nigeria reside. They are outside. We're talking about the hospitability and like the predictability of the regulatory environment. Those are some of the major, and that includes. We could be talking about security. We could be talking about. Mr. Annan pointed to the fintech opportunity. We could talk about how clear is it where the regulators stand on the legality or otherwise of certain activities in the fintech space, and these activities that are, I'm pointing towards things like cryptocurrencies or some tech-based savings and investment tools. There's a reason why Nigerians are going for that, because of the gaps in the market, but it's not necessarily clear. It's not always clear where the regulator stands on those issues, and I think that's where things like this are where the difficulties come. Not in terms of the NIPC Act and its negative list. That's not it. You might be looking at things like other macro factors like the currency position, the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel rate, and access to currency at the official rate. What's going on with demonetization right now? these are things that I think make investment in Nigeria difficult, not this act. The last one I'd say on that, because I don't want to go for too long. The last one, another thing that makes investment in Nigeria difficult for foreign entities is the impression of Nigeria outside. So if an outsider is trying to raise capital for a project in Nigeria, they have to promise really outsized returns given the impression of risk in Nigeria. So those assumptions make it more difficult to to run project, to raise capital and to execute profitably.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Nana.
I think I've always said something that the impression of Nigeria in the global mind, is what actually has caused. Okay, before 10, 11 years ago, I got into Nigeria. I was given so much negative stories about Nigeria, right? Being a Ghanaian young man, and then you are living to Nigeria, and everybody is telling you negative things. But I got into the system, and I realized that this is not exactly what people see Nigeria to be. I experienced Nigeria. I have experienced Nigeria. If you ask me to choose between Ghana and Nigeria, where to stay, I can stay in Ghana and love to do my business in Nigeria. Why? Because in Nigeria, you have the market. Look at a population of estimated 220 million, right? And look at the deficit in power supply. Look at the deficit in food and agriculture. Look at the deficit in real estate. Look at all the deficits. Now, there's no regulatory law in Nigeria that restricts investment into the country. No country will put up such a thing. You get it? But then before you come into the business, okay, for instance, we have businesses that come into the system and run a system of a scam, right? Before you realize, those businesses are not registered in Nigeria. Now, at the end of the day, they are global brands. But instead of them getting to register in Nigeria so that they pay tax to the Nigerian government, they don't get registered in Nigeria. They run their business. They use the Nigerian market, make their profits. And then at the end of the day, if the business crashes, Nigerians are losing. Right? So what framework or policies are being put in place for the government to ensure that Nigerians don't lose in putting their money? And remember, if also a company comes in and introduce a product and Nigerians come to love the product, but then that company is not situated in Nigeria or not registered in Nigeria and is not paying taxes to the Nigerian government, it means Nigerians are losing. Right? So the reason why we have laws, we have policies, we have frameworks all guiding investment into the country is because we need to do what is called, we need to practice what is called good governance. Right? We need to practice good governance. And with good governance, we can do better. You know, and then many companies also from the international point of view wants to come into Nigeria or wants to come into Africa and want to dodge taxes. So these are all issues we have to look at, but not necessarily that the environment is hostile to investment. The environment is open for investment, but where do you want to invest in? And do you want to go with the right policies and then in conformity to what the laws of the land says? For instance, if I have a company in Nigeria, the people working in Nigeria are not Ghanaians. They are Nigerians. So if I'm a Ghanaian and I open a company in Nigeria and I bring Ghanaians to come and work there, what is the benefit of the people in Nigeria? So all these things are what we need to look into. So if you are bringing an investment to the country, and then, or even if it is in Ghana, you are bringing an investment into the country, or in Nigeria, you are bringing an investment into the country to start up a project. What it means is that the laws of the land must also protect the people, your employees, right? You have to take into consideration taxation, right? You have to take into consideration corporate social responsibilities,
Yes.
corporate governance.
Yes.
So all these things come in for us to have an effective system to drive investment. Now, Nana made mention of the image of Nigeria outside it. We know people have talked so bad about Nigeria, but Nigeria is not bad as people say it out there. Right? Until you come to Nigeria and you experience the good things of Nigeria, you always be listening to what has been going on in the news and then talk about Nigeria being bad. But no, you get it. And one thing that is very important is that if you are an investor and you are coming into a country, also look out for partnership. It's more better than coming to set up a young man from Bangladesh this morning sent me an email that they want to import already finished export already finished product they are doing there into the country, to Nigeria, into Ghana. Then I said, no, I would prefer you come, we partner, we set up this company here, and you produce this thing here so that you'll be able to pay the government, you'll be able to employ people. But if I import it and I bring it in, at the end of the day, I am not employing people.
Right.
You get it? Yeah, so I told the young man, please, we can find the raw materials here in Africa, here in Ghana, here in Nigeria. So whichever way you want it, we can set it up here and then produce it with the local content. So investing in Africa, the case of Nigeria, we have to look at, there's no restriction. Nothing is restrictionless. Nothing is restricted for you to go into businesses that are profitable to the society. For instance, you can't come and say you are coming into Nigeria and you are coming to produce ammunitions, or you are bringing ammunitions into the country. That's not going to work out.
That's the negative list there. Yeah.
That's on the negative list. So that is not going to work out.
Okay. Thank you guys for these answers. Then next question. Nigeria is a destination with the third highest foreign direct investment, FDI, in Africa, and holds a special attraction for savvy investors from across the globe keen to capitalize on a GDP estimated to grow to over 750 billion US dollars by 2022. Do you agree that is a statement made by Nordi Trade concerning the Nigerian market? Do you agree to this statement?
Let me come in to tell you the truth. This is an estimate they are talking about, but then one thing is that on ground, you see, if we cannot account for any foreign direct investment that is that foreign direct investment that is coming into the economy, we have to look at everything that makes investment attractive to the country. What is very important is that Nigeria's market is worth more than what they are even estimating. Nigeria's market is worth more than what they are estimating.
Okay.
Depending on what they are bringing in, and depending on what they want to do, Nigeria is a consumption market, right? So we consume a lot, and then by consuming a lot, what it means is that anyone bringing in an investment, anyone bringing in a project stands to gain more profit. And then we're also looking at the growth rate of Nigeria. The growth rate of Nigeria, any developing country has some indices and other. But then if the atmosphere of politics, that we have political stability, we have security in place, we have high-speed internet technology, we have so much investment in fintech and digital technology. I tell you, what they are estimating as 700 billion is a small money. There's more that can be gotten from Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you, John. Then what about you,
Nana,
Nana?
Nana, what do you think of that?
Hello?
Nana, unmute yourself, please.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. I think it's true that there is a gap between the estimated size of the economy and the realities, partly because of the size of, let's say, of Nigeria's informal sector. And I think for a foreign investor, it takes us back to the original point about why those sorts of summary figures are not necessarily useful, because the realities have to be assessed on the ground. There's a gap there, but that gap is one of the challenges for a foreign investor, in that, or even not just for a foreign investor, for a domestic investor as well, trying to get confident that you understand the market, you understand it, your competition. It takes additional work. So those are some of the things that I think it's important for investors and business operators to take into account when it comes to our markets. And Nigeria, as you said, doesn't escape that you need a certain amount of, let's call it, there's this resilience capital that you need to have installed there for the gap between your initial impression and the reality. You need a certain amount of reserve there for this learning about what the realities are. It can be positive. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be the fact that it took longer to get your power connection than you anticipated initially. It doesn't have to be the fact that to get your Form M or whatever it is that you need for some goods, or things are stuck at our Papa ports. It doesn't have to be all that negative stuff. It could be the scale of demand for your offering is higher than you thought, or the availability of labor for this particular thing that you want to do is more so than you planned initially. There's room for positive and negative in the realities versus the gap. That's what I would say. I think when you were talking about the forecast for growth, I'm like you, John, that if Nigeria could get the politics right, and politics right, we're living in the real world. No country on earth has got it perfect. So we're talking about degrees of change. If the political environment and security environment goes and continues on an incline, the potential for Nigeria is mammoth. 10% domestic. This is the assessment. 10%. The assessment that domestic credit is 10% of GDP in Nigeria is equivalent to 10% of GDP in Nigeria versus 4-5 times that across the rest of Africa. Imagine if people had access to capital in equivalent amounts in Nigeria. The country could soar. And I think that the political environment is one of the reasons, one of the things that could make that more possible. So I think I'm saying that Nigeria is the third, this figure that they've said about Nigeria being the third highest recipient of foreign direct investment, and holds a special attraction for savvy investors across the globe. It has to be true. That has to be true, and it requires savvy investors at the moment. And the second part of it about the estimates of growth. Well, by 2022, or by, let's call it 2023. No, that's not going to happen. But the estimates of growth looking forward yeah, we're waiting to see what happens after this set of elections and after power changes hands in May. One thing about all of the major candidates is that they're all promising pro-private sector reforms. So, theoretically, that should give us a little bit of, if not confidence, at least everybody's talking about reform in a way that they weren't in 2019 or in 2015. The conversation has changed towards what can we do to move things forward more rapidly.
Okay. Thank you guys for these answers. The next, we've already done that. According to the conversation, the number of Nigerians living in poverty rose by 35 million in 2022. The country's inflation rate increased to 21% in 2022, compared with an average of 10.6% for emerging and developing economies and 8.8% for the world. This level of economic hardship could present further risks to Nigeria's security. What do you think about this statement?
The issues the issues in Nigeria are not different from the issues in Ghana. I do travel across West Africa, and to tell you the truth, one of the major things that we are doing to ourselves by talking about poverty here, talking about the poverty level and all that. See, when I tell you that Nigerians have money, you will be shocked. You're talking about poverty level. Are you talking about the ability to feed, or you're talking about availability of capital, or what are you using it to, to estimate the poverty level? Now, to tell you the truth, let's look at external the GDP. Let's not take the GDP. Let's not take, these are economic indices. And sometimes these economic indices might not be the true reflection of what is the reality on ground.
Indeed.
Right? Yes. Because one, even though we might say about 35 million Nigerians are in poverty, but you see, to tell you the truth, how many startups came out of Nigeria last year? How many businesses were registered last year? Go and check those indices. And then find out also how many people are poor in Nigeria. Okay, when we're looking at this, apart from people of school-going age, right? Apart from people of school-going age, we have a lot to do with unemployment. But Nigerians are not unemployed. I tell you, Nigerians have become one of the most innovative young men using technology to kill poverty.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, John. Is that the concern with this, with what we are going right now, is to avoid, to bring out the truth, what is true and what is false in these different statements made by these media. Because according to us,
by this media,
because according to us,
sometimes it might be true, but you see, as Nana was saying before, when you are in the reality, when you are in the reality, it's not about what is published online. It's about reality. It's about reality. When I heard that Nigerians don't have money, do you know that between 2020, after the COVID, and 2022, which we are now in 2022, do you know a lot of people put up housing units, more than even between the period of 2015 to 2020.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
That's really interesting, because according to us, it's really important to share such informations in order to let people know that, let people be aware that things are moving there are
Yeah.
opportunities.
So I was asking someone a question that when they say there's no money in the system, what do they mean by there's no money? Is it that is it about the purchasing power? You know, one thing is that we already know the price of goods escalated because everybody was using the dollar, the black market exchange rate as means of pricing the goods and services in Nigeria. Fine. So because of that, the purchasing power of Nigerians reduced, but also there was so much money. People have money, right? People have money. Even if people don't have money, people can afford food.
Okay.
Right. But I think one of the major things we have to look at is that we have to consider the realities on ground, and then look at, okay, fine, if Nigerians are complaining of poverty, if Nigerians are complaining of hardship, what is actually causing the hardship? To tell you the truth, Nigerians are innovative. So if there's a peaceful environment for Nigerians can do their business. If there's access to funding, Nigerians can do business. So this is the reality.
Okay.
I would say so. I think that we could for that reason we could break down that statement and see, what's useful to us and what's not. The rate, as you said, we all know that the rate of inflation has increased. That has been experienced, even if one may differ on the accuracy of the basket of goods being used by the CBN. Again, that's something that is common around the world. People would normally say, they say it's 10%, but I feel like it's 20. That's something common. So that the idea that inflation has gone up to 20%, whereas in the mid 2010s it was in the single digits. I think that's accurate. That part.
Yeah.
Or the idea that this figure is not in the statement that you made, but if we think, you mentioned the parallel rate, or so you mentioned the exchange rate. I think it's gone from 100 and something in the 2014-15 to, is it 450 or 460 official exchange rate, and double that on the parallel rate. This is economic pain. Now, amongst us in this conversation, we can recognize that there's a bias that is unhelpful when talking about our economies, and unhelpful when talking about Nigeria in particular. We can also recognize amongst us that this description of economic pain, if I were an economic decision maker, I would consider that there is, and a political risk analyst, which I would consider that there is a relationship between economic pain and security risk everywhere in the world, not peculiar to Nigeria at all. So yes, people are experiencing pain, and it seems reasonable to expect that security risks can increase commensurately. So whereas some amount of the sabotage of Nigeria's oil infrastructure is related to economic opportunism rather than the kind of how might we describe it, ethnocentric competition, or that sort of, I was looking for a better word than separatism, that may have fed some of the instability in previous years. Right now, a lot of it is economic opportunism because people are in pain. So I think there is a relationship there, and we should isolate for ourselves the part that comes from bias. And I agree with you that whenever we're talking about Africa, when we're talking about Nigeria in particular, there is this image of nothing but poverty that is unhelpful. So let's park that. But I think the economic pain part is real, and something that an investor should consider.
Okay.
When you're thinking about the long term. Yeah.
Okay. That's actually true.
Thank you guys for your enlightenments. Then there is another question. What do you think about the recent events in Nigeria concerning the cash availability?
My experience is that is a source of real pain. John, you're in country, so you can describe that. That's a source of real pain.
It is so much economic pain, and I think I don't want to even talk about it because I think I left some few weeks before, and okay, to me as a person, I have nurtured my mind on cashless policy for a long time because you see, I'm into tech. And being into tech, you have to understand where the world is going and then know what are likely going to be the policies the government are going to take in terms of money, cash flow, in terms of cashless policies, in terms of fintech, and all those things. You see, so all these years, my friends would tell me, Kofi, you don't carry cash on you. Why? And I say, no. I want to tell you what is ahead and what is likely to come. Like, for instance, I am here in my purse. I don't have any money in it. Right? I don't have cash in it. Anything I want to do, I just pay either through the bank app or, but you know, the infrastructure is not there. So the infrastructure is what has actually caused so much pain. That is one. Two, you see, the policy was in a haste, right? The policy was in a haste. I don't know the rationale behind it, but the policy was in a haste. Three, people are slow to adapt to technology in Nigeria. You see, there's so much high rate of like there's this mindset that when your money is in the bank, it's not your money.
Yes, it's a mindset.
Many people have the mindset that when my money is in the bank, it's not with me. So many people keep cash on them.
Yes.
And you will be surprised many people don't even have bank accounts. Right? Also, when you look at the banking infrastructure, most of the banks are situated in the cities.
Yes.
You get it? And Nigeria don't have a system of much of a rural banks. You get it? Now, when you go to the northern part of the country, a lot of transactions are done in cash. Because even when you travel to some of those places, to tell you the truth, the telecommunication infrastructure there is not so good for you to be able to transact with your phone. So at the end of the day, if the infrastructure is not there, that's the telecommunication infrastructure, we need internet, we need broadband spread across villages before somebody in the villages can say, I am doing a cashless transaction. But you live in a village that you cannot receive network on your phone. How do you do a transaction, which is cashless? Now, aside that, because we don't have the banks getting into the rural communities, we have an alternative source of getting money, which is through the point of sale devices, right? And this point of sale devices also don't get money just like that. So at the end of the day, they have to go to the banks, get money and all that. But then if we have banking infrastructure look at the number of banking branches in Lagos. Let's take one bank and look at the number of branches in Lagos. If they have good infrastructure, Lagos can take like 5 branches. What it means is that many people in Lagos might not need to go into the banking hall. Yes, if you have the infrastructure, if the apps are working, if people can transact through their phones. Okay, I experienced something in Ghana, and I realized in Ghana it's working better. Ghana is using MTN Momo, mobile money transfer, right? And it has become a more acceptable system in terms of banking policy, in terms of financial distribution. It has become more acceptable than even paying into a bank account. Now, almost every of the taxis I pick up, I just transfer when I was in Ghana. I just transfer mobile money to them, and then I'm going.
Okay.
You get it?
Yes.
The drivers accept that, and then so the situation on ground is that we didn't. I don't know what was in the mind of the policy implementers, and then also the banks are also sabotaging the whole situation. Now the banks feel like they don't need to dish out more cash, but then they are also giving the cash out. For instance, during this electoral process, someone was allegedly caught with some huge amount of money by the EFCC, about 31 million naira. Now, if everybody in Nigeria is supposed to be given only 20,000 as cash, how do you get such millions? So the money was supposed to be evenly distributed. But you see, in Nigeria, it is about the survival of the fittest. If you have your way, you can get more money. If you don't have your way, you suffer, which is not supposed to be so.
Indeed.
So, and then you can imagine an old woman in the village who don't have a phone, who don't have a bank account. They would need to get cash to buy food, to do everything. So it is the adaptability, considering the population of Nigeria. You don't just start a policy that will put pain in the heart of the people.
Okay.
Every policy must come in a way that it will bring joy to the people. Right. So now Nigerians are experiencing so much economic pain. I am currently in Accra, and to tell you the truth, I cannot use my banking cards here in Accra. I send a message to my banks to rectify that, and none of them replied me. So supposing I'm not in Ghana, which is like my home, and I'm in another country and they can't reply me, it's going to give me an economic pain. I have money in my account, I can't access it. And the same way everybody is facing in Nigeria. You have money in your account, you can't access it. And it's not good.
Okay. Thank you, John. Nana?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect description of the situation. And you know, we were talking previously about where challenges may arrive in terms of investing and running a business successfully and profitably in Nigeria, where they come from. And we were saying that it's not in the NIPC Act. We're saying that it comes from the hospitability and the predictability of the regulatory environment. This is an example of the reverse, where the regulatory environment or the political environment has become inhospitable in an unpredictable fashion. And it also shows how why you really need the on-the-ground bit, and in order to understand where the opportunities are and how you may access them. As we were saying, there are a lot of people in Nigeria. There's a high proportion of the population in Nigeria that does not have access to a bank account. Theoretically, that would mean that these same technologies that have made such a difference in Ghana should take off in Nigeria as well. Momo, exactly as you said. If you've not done your on-the-ground work, you wouldn't realise that in the areas where populations are most underserved, they're in terms of access to a bank account, they're also underserved in terms of telecommunications. So if your business was premised on Momo in those areas and you haven't done sufficient diligencing and market assessment, you may run into trouble. So that's why we're saying that, you know, the market is huge, the opportunity is huge. You need to do some research before you start making decisions. And the other point about being that, as I said, the risks emerge from policy decisions. Very few people that we speak to anywhere in the system feel like they really understand why this is going on. It does, you know, people who are on the floor, who, as you described, the old lady in the village, they don't understand what's going on, and individuals in senior economic or large economic entities, people who you might have described as business and political elites, they also feel like they don't understand what's going on, what's the rationale. There are loads of theories, but there isn't clarity there. And that, as you said, John, is not good. And it makes life difficult. Yeah, I think I'll pause there.
Thank you guys for these answers. And then next concern. If you had to establish a short list of sectors with investments or opportunities in Nigeria, which ones would you mention? Please, we would like you to be to go really straight to the point, because especially regarding the time remaining for this meeting. Please. Hello? Nana, your microphone.
Gosh, sorry about that. Yeah, I would say for me, I said I'll go quickly. For me, I would say I'm interested in solutions to, as I said, we're in an electoral cycle right now. We'll see what will happen in terms of the policy framework that's put in place by whoever wins these elections. But I'll be paying attention to what they do with respect to power. I'll be paying attention to what they do with respect to transport, and that may produce opportunities in that one should look at. I think that Nigeria has a comparative advantage in terms of its cultural products. I'm talking about music. I'm talking about film. I think Nigeria produces. I'm sorry.
Entertainment.
I think Nigeria is globally competitive. So I would be interested in businesses that can capture value there, that can produce and capture that value there. Maybe you asked us to be quick, so I'll stop there.
Okay.
I'll go straight to the basic necessity of life.
Yes.
Food. Water. Shelter.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because the way you just said food.
Reminded me that I'm hungry.
Yes. So food, agriculture.
Yes.
Food and agri is an area that whether we like it or not, more population is going to come. We need to serve them with more food.
Yes, that's fact.
Yeah, so we invest. I'll invest in agro.
Yes.
Food, agro processing,
Okay.
and then shelter.
Okay.
Many people will need to. They will not sleep on trees. They will need to live in houses. So,
of course.
Real estate.
Okay.
And then
can I just add? So on that food point, just on the food part, I just want to riff on the food part. I would also invest in, or I'd be interested to look at logistics around food. So I think that's an area where we've got real gaps.
Okay. And then I'll look at clothing.
Okay.
Because people are going to wear clothes. Then another area is also power and water supply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Then the next concern: what do you think are the risk vectors likely to thwart the economic growth prospect established for Nigeria?
I mean, we spoke about this recent policy around demonetization. Things like this arrest economic activity. So I think the policy environment addressing things like this would be very important.
Okay.
And then insecurity too.
Yes.
Okay. So demonetization and insecurity.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You see, when the environment is friendly, when the environment is hospitable, everything strives.
Indeed. Then the next concern: according to you, what is the part of Nollywood in the economic attractiveness of Nigeria? Is it the same as Hollywood in USA?
I think it's I think as I said, Nigeria's cultural output there's comparative advantage, and I think Nollywood's a part of that. I think it might be quite interesting in the context of after. So already across the continent we're consuming Nollywood, but I wonder what a single market from Cairo to Cape Town will mean for this sector.
Okay, then what about you, John?
One thing is that entertainment industry in Nigeria is still a growing industry. So there are prospects.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And according to you, what is the contribution of local entrepreneurship and the part of FDI in Nigeria's growth? Because when we are talking about investment, we have investment done by local entrepreneurs, and we also have on the other hand we have FDI, foreign direct investment.
Okay, one thing that I will appreciate the Nigerian Senate and the House of Assembly for is the establishment of a bill, the passing of a bill to establish an SME bank, which is going to facilitate local SMEs, the growth of SMEs, the growth of startups in Nigeria. It is one of the laudable policies that I give them kudos to. One thing is that no economy thrives without entrepreneurs.
Yes.
The ability to turn the factors of production into a consumable goods and services for export. Remember, I don't feel the desire to export raw materials to Europe, and then they produce and send it back to us as finished products for us to buy. I don't see that again. I see a situation whereby we turn the things around ourselves and we send it export for consumption for ourselves and for others. So I believe that entrepreneurs are the key holders of an economy. For us to see the growth of an economy, we need to invest in young entrepreneurs. We need to invest in industrialization. We need to invest in technology. And any entrepreneur who finds himself in these areas is a good thing for the growth of the economy. And remember, in Africa, the rate at which we start our own businesses is uncomparable to even Europe. Yes, the number of young men who are into entrepreneurship in Africa are more than the young men into entrepreneurship in US and Europe combined together. You get it? Now, why is China on top of the global industrialization and the commercialization world? What it means is that China invested in local content entrepreneurs. And that is why we have products coming from China, finished products coming from China every time. So for us to grow, we need to invest in entrepreneurs, within local entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you.
I'd say imagine in terms of so if we're saying what's the role, what's the contribution of local entrepreneurship and FDI, I would like to let me talk about what one would like to see, because that's, I think, the direction that John you've led us in. And I would say, imagine a Nigeria in which startups, these local entrepreneurs, in terms of their relationship with the state, be it, state broadly, local government or federal government, they viewed local government or state government, federal government as their partner, the person that you go to in order to access a better future, rather than viewing these entities as agents you need to hide from effectively until you get to such a stage that you have sufficient size and security to, now let me talk to them about what it is that my business is doing now that I've succeeded. Imagine if these local entrepreneurs felt like they were, I need to get in touch with government so that I can so that I can start and grow a business. That is a much bigger and more secure Nigerian economy in all kinds of ways. And imagine a relationship with FDI wherein the sort of the backbone of the economy is supported by the best available from outside in terms of technology and in terms of just capital and knowledge transfer. Again, that's a much faster growing Nigeria, and so I would like to see a Nigeria in which both FDI and local entrepreneurs are enabled, because I think they both have a crucial role to play. I don't think that I think local content is extremely important. I think that, but I think there is a role for FDI that would allow Nigeria to grow more quickly than would otherwise be the case. That was part of the story with China as well, that FDI was employed strategically to facilitate their growth. I think the same could be true for Nigeria and the rest of the continent.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. We are already at the end of this meeting. Thanks for all the answers provided to the different concerns we mentioned during this meeting, and also thanks for making yourself available for this meeting. I guess it wasn't really easy to both of you, especially as we are doing it during the weekend. I'm looking at John, who seems to be really tired.
Really? I've been coming from site. I left the house for some real estate inspection.
Oh.
since 8 o'clock, and I just got to the house, so it's normal.
John, you look fresh to me. I think you look good. Don't worry.
Thank you, Nana. Nana, I design. We are selling you.
Okay. I hope we will have the opportunity to have another meeting during this year, even if it's not on the main team, on another concern. And once again,
we can do that.
Thank you. Once again, have a nice weekend and